Spying on Grandpa. Puffing, sweating, and laughing, Karen and Jake Freeman walked along off the tennis courts with towels around their necks. Let's go for a swim in the lake and cool off. 17-year-old Karen nudged her younger brother hard. Slender, she wore face jewelry on her tanned face. There were pearls on her nose and ears. They did look a lot alike, right down to their long pointed noses and eyeglasses that they wore. You tricked me. I'll get you next time. 16-year-old Jake nudged her back, and they liked to tease and compete with each other. They were the same height, and Jake liked the fact that he was growing some whiskers, but didn't like his acne. They were well dressed in expensive shorts and shirts. Swim. Karen coaxed him around some trees to a wide dirt path leading to the lake. No, you weren't. I'm the better player, Karen insisted. They were both agile, strong, and liked sports. They walked along the trail. You ready for Grandpa's birthday party tonight? Jake looked at his big sister. Secretly, they adored and confided in each other. They shared the same nightmares from being beaten by their parents. They kept to themselves with their fears and scars hidden under their clothes. Their parents divorced and went their separate ways, and Karen and Jake lived with their grandparents who raised them. In the Air Force, their grandfather pretty much ignored them. And when their grandmother died a few years ago, their nanny took over taking care of them. I guessed. Karen looked down at the path and kicked some sticks and rocks around. She put a piece of gum in her dry mouth. She really wanted a weed. What did you get him? Jake wondered as they continued on the winding path. A sweater, she wiped her dry mouth. And you? A new tennis racket. He's fishing over here someplace, isn't he? And Jake kept rubbing his head and neck because of continuous headaches from being pushed down a staircase. Did you invite your boyfriend, Wayne? Yeah. You bringing Angie? She's not my girlfriend. I don't have one, he snapped, depressed. She likes you, and I know you like her. Did you invite her? And he sighed hard. Okay, I will. Jake nodded. Noticing tire tracks along the old path, Karen was blinking, puzzled. They both looked through the trees and saw a parked car. Chewing gum hard, Karen's eyes widened with an idea to spy on their grandfather. She pulled Jake down and snuck down around the car. It had a government plate on it. Staying low, they crawled around some trees to get closer to the dock where Ray Freeman was fishing. That's Joanne's car, Jake whispered, getting closer. You like her, don't you? Karen nudged him. Got the hots for her, don't you? And irritated, Jake just stared at her. Out of sight, they watched Joanne Ross approach Ray. The pretty 33-year-old tomboy wore a light, sporty pantsuit. With a folder and iPad in hand, she walked up to Ray. And feeling someone behind him, he set his fish pole down and turned to his assistant. Ray looked distinguished in his 60s. He was wearing just sport shorts and shirt. He had thick white hair with a military haircut. He also had a pot belly. Sir, she immediately saluted him. Yes, Captain Ross. I have urgent news, General. And Ray looked around the peaceful, secluded, wooded area on the lake. I retired 6 months ago, Joe. Forget the formalities. It's hard. She stared at him in admiration. It was a mutual relationship they had for almost 5 years. Are Karen and Jake around here? They're playing tennis, which may go on for hours, he told her. They didn't notice Karen and Jake crouched down behind some trees. This can wait. She gave him the iPad to review the information. It's time to deploy. She nodded and didn't envy his position as one of the leaders of the resistance movement. Ray read the information on the iPad. His brown eyes widened in alarm, and he tried to stay calm. Oh, yes, your promotion came through. Congratulations, Major. Shaking her head and looking down, she wasn't sure if she wanted the promotion. She breathed deeply, hiding her feelings. And what should I call you? Ray perked up, staring at her. Mr. President? What? You're not happy with your promotion? He noticed her uneasiness. If I take it, I'll be transferred. I would like to stay with you, sir. I'm thinking of getting out. They stared at each other, realizing they had gotten close and felt like family. Ray returned to his reading. Does anyone else know you came here with this to deliver this? No, sir. I felt it would be best to come in person. You're right about that. And Ray chewed his lips. Has this been confirmed? He looked at her. Yes, Mr. President. The Constitutional Convention concluded, and here's the results. She handed him a file from the folder. Have all the local and state authorities been notified? And have General Chang and General Mansky been put on alert? Yes, Mr. President. She stood stiff in front of him. She really liked him and saw him as a father figure. They want to deploy in 5 hours. In the bushes among the trees, Karen and Jake stared at each other with wrinkled noses and blinking, confused eyes. Ray read the reports. Good work, Joe. Warrants for Elizabeth Windsor, Obama, Francis, Bushes, Clintons, Rockefellers, Kissinger, Cheney, Soros. Outstanding. Now we can move on this. He looked up at Joe. Good. Set up a meeting in 2 hours. Then he sighed and wiped his face. He shook his head, remembering something. Oh, no. My birthday party tonight. Happy birthday, Joe smoked at him. It's been a long time coming. We can get our world back now. Ray didn't want to show any emotions, but he was very happy and relieved. Then they heard sniffling and a sneeze and looked around. Joe watched him. That's only part of the warrants. They looked around the trees and spotted Karen and Jake moving back. All right, you two, Ray demanded impatiently. Karen, Jake, what do you think you're doing? Karen and Jake stood up and stiffened at attention. They knew he was a tough disciplinarian. Speak up. Jake eyed Joe's slender figure in her pantsuit and really liked what he saw. Oh, no, Joe was sighing. How much did you hear? Embarrassed at a loss, Karen and Jake's heads were down, and their hands were behind their backs. Did you hear everything? Ray snapped with furrowed brows and pursed lips. They both nodded, as Ray kept staring at them. She called you president. Of what? Jake spoke slowly. Sighing, Ray wiped his face, feeling his graying whiskers. Joe turned to him, wondering what he would do. Perhaps you should tell them, she suggested. What's going on, Grandpa? Karen asked, concerned. Joe, Karen, and Jake stared at Ray, who shook his head confused. Then he nodded, agreeing with Joe. Ray looked at Joe, and she just shrugged. Get a chopper here to pick me up. Get the ball rolling. Contact Mike and get everybody together. Nodding, Joe backed away, stared at Karen and Jake, and then turned and walked away, pulling out her cell phone. Shaking his head as a loss, Ray didn't know what to say or where to start. His mind buzzed with everything that was going on. He urged Karen and Jake to join him on the dock that had 2 lawn chairs. Karen and Ray sat in the chairs, and Jake sat on the dock near them. Tell us what? Karen studied her grandfather. Arrests? They were both very curious. World leaders? Jake was confused. Ray wiped his face, not knowing where to begin. Well, let's see. Cover-ups. Everything's a cover-up, he groaned. I wish Grandma was here. She was so good with words. We miss her, Karen mentioned, remembering that she had a doctorate in psychology. Me too. Ray stared at Karen, seeing his wife Brenda in her. He looked at his grandchildren. With 7 billion people in the world, there's a group of very powerful rich people. And they've been manipulating, brainwashing, and controlling everything in our lives. Everything's been engineered and planned by them. The media, the movies, government, banking, energy, religion, transportation, environment, education, health, food, the weather, UFOs. Why? Blinking, Jay shook and rubbed his head puzzled, then looked at his sister. Sighing, Ray sat back in his chair thinking about it. Because they think we can't take care of ourselves or govern ourselves, he shrugged. And we can't because they've dumbed us down with poisons in our air, the water, food, and vaccines. They keep us in fear, so we are easily led. And they do it through television, movies, music, bad weather, wars, false flags. What's a false flag? Karen wrinkled her nose in confusion and pushed her glasses up on her nose. Events that are not real but scripted, like Sandy Hook, the Boston Marathon, 9/11. Really? They replied in unison, surprised. Yep. Staring at Karen and Jake, Ray realized how much he had loved them and hadn't been there for them. And you're going to arrest these bad guys? Ray nodded at Karen. The president? Queen of England? The Pope? Jake added. Yep. There is a resistance that's been here for a long time. It's been a long battle. But what the cabal, the bad guys don't want is us returning to our true selves. Very high spiritual, multi-dimensional beings. And we're doing it. We won. He smiled at them. You're part of the resistance? Jake's eyes lighted up. It sounded like a movie. Yes, there is a good military, which includes Russian and Chinese forces to round up the bad guys if need be. The local and state authorities will be doing most of it. And you're going to be president? Karen started to giggle. Ray nodded and shook his finger at them. Interim president for only 6 months. We work in secret and you can't tell anyone. He kept shaking his finger at them. Is that clear? We won't, Jake was sure. Did Grandma know? And Ray tensed and gulped hard. Tears came to his eyes. I swore an oath when I joined the resistance. He clutched his fist tightly. Karen and Jake had never seen him worried and weakened. What happened? They asked in unison. Ray had a difficult time speaking. There's healing technology that has been hidden from us for a long time. And I knew about one that could have cured Grandma's cancer, but I couldn't use it. It would have put me, you, and the resistance in danger. We just couldn't risk it. He gulped hard. Karen and Jake had tears in her eyes. They all remembered when she died 3 years ago. There was silence. And it's my fault what happened to you two, Ray gulped. He saw their puzzled looks. I abused Grandma and John when he was little. And shocked wide eyes, their mouths also fell open. Jake and Karen stared at him. So when he grew up, he of course thought it was okay to abuse you two, along with your mom, Gabriel. And when Grandma found out what happened to you two, she took you guys away from them. They divorced and went their separate ways. Oh my God, Karen blurted out. That's only part of it. You know how she liked to play with your mind. Jake and Karen nodded. Grandma put her foot down and warned me that I ever laid a hand on either of you, she would take you guys and leave. So I stayed away and got therapy. Oh, wow, Jake exclaimed. My impatience and temper has cost me. Ray shook his head in remorse. And Wendy and Bernie have done a great job with you two. Karen and Jake started crying. Let's see. You came to live with us in 2006. Your parents were divorced. John deserted the Air Force and defected to Croatia, and Gabby went to Peru. In late 2008, John wanted to meet with me. He had totally changed and told me about the resistance he was in. And then Grandma died in 2011. Dad got you in the resistance? Jake was surprised about his father. Yep. And your mom, Gabby, is also in the resistance, working on it from Peru. They just can't live together, those two. Ray shook his head. Wow! Karen looked at her brother and started smiling, and so did Jake. Ray stood up. You can see them if you want. Later. We've got work to do. Karen and Jake stood up, and Ray hugged them and led them off the dock. They all hugged. You two help Wendy and Bernie call off the party. If you want, you and your friends can stay the weekend. I need a shower before I go. They heard a chopper in the distance and looked up, and they walked off, arm in arm. Happy birthday, Grandpa, Jake told him. How old are you, Grandpa? Karen asked. 10. He replied, nodding emphatically. On a television screen, Ray appeared wearing a nice suit. We now interrupt this program for an international announcement, which is now being transmitted globally to all media devices. My name is Raymond James Freeman, retired Lieutenant General of the United States Air Force. I have just assumed the position of Interim President of the United States and have fantastic news for all humanity. Is this really fiction or not? Would you like it to come true? Well, We won. Thanks for watching, listening. Come back for more, and there's more over at these websites. Check them out.